Welcome to another new episode of Strange Encounters, the home of all things paranormal, supernatural, and out of this world, where tonight we are going to be joined by our special guest, Persephone Mae Holloway, who will share her own strange encounter with otherworldly forces. We'll also listen to a featured track from her upcoming musical project. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and send your unexplained and strange encounters to verystrangeencounters@gmail.com. You can now submit your stories online to the website linked below the video. Join us on Reddit at r/verystrangeencounters. You can donate to the channel at Patreon, buymeacoffee.com, and PayPal, and your donations help us upgrade our recording equipment. So, sit back, relax, and prepare to be amazed by the mysteries of the universe as we listen to these allegedly true and decidedly amazing alien encounter stories on this episode of Strange Encounters.
The Girl Who Disappeared Just for a Moment by Persephone Mae Holloway. A quick note to listeners about hypnotherapy, as it has been a subject of much controversy in the past. The type of hypnotherapy I participate in is non-leading and focuses more on improving recall of situations, allowing me to remember it in my own time, rather than the more controversial therapist-led, such as, "Where was the alien you saw?" etc. The moment I recalled this story actually occurred after an inner child healing hypnotherapy appointment completely unrelated to any of my paranormal experiences, as you'll hear shortly. A series of strange dreams and missing time in my childhood led me to seek out answers in 2023. But I always told this story a certain way to friends before I fully had all the details, so I'll start by telling it that way to you now. September 1997, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. It was too hot for a normal September day. I was in 5th grade, a year ahead for my age. The bus driver always swung down my block and around the small circular island that was my house and one other neighbor's at the center of the neighborhood. It meant my mom never waited at a corner for me, just opened the front door and let me in. That was not to be my fate today, whether by accident or design. The bus slowed to a screeching halt by the stony entrance sign of the neighborhood I lived in, and I wrinkled my nose as I looked out the window. "This isn't my stop," I said, probably in that precocious, annoying way of children cursed with the title gifted. "It is today." Not gruff, not angry, just matter of fact. I got off, frowning, and waved goodbye to my driver. It wasn't like him to leave me here, as bright and blue as the sky was on this unseasonable day. I was a finger's breadth away from being taken, but I didn't know it yet. The neighborhood forked at the entrance to my street, and one-way traffic would have to split around a heavily wooded median. Here, even now, when I drive friends to see this strange neighborhood and recount my tale, the sky appears to darken when you step under that canopy above. The moment I crossed under the enveloping trees, everything went silent. No birds, no animals. I walked forward, shocked by the stillness. The only sound was of my footsteps on the black asphalt road and the crunch of dead leaves underfoot. I wanted to get out from under that canopy and quickly, as quickly as possible. I had the errant thought, it's after school in a neighborhood with a lot of other children. There should be the sound of other kids playing. Something. Almost like the thought brought it into existence, the eerie echo of children singing "Ring Around the Rosie" began, except there was no direction for the sound. It seemed to come from everywhere or nowhere, but I wasn't hearing it aloud. I was hearing it inside my head, and instinctively I knew, that's not children, that's not human. A primal fear filled me head to toe, and I began to bolt for my house. I was obsessed with Irish folk tales as a little girl, and all I knew was that something was bearing down on me from behind in the sky. And I thought, Finvara and the Unseelie Court have come for me. They're going to take me away. It's my biggest regret to this day that I never turned around to see what was behind me. But I had the childhood belief that if I don't look at it, it can't get me. I said I would recount it first, how I remembered, so this is how I always told the story. I blinked. It couldn't have been more than a blink, and I was already running up my driveway towards my front door. I pounded my fists on it, crying, upset, desperately wanting to be let in, but without the key to do so. My parents were paranoid, even though we were in a very safe neighborhood. I collapsed on the front step, exhausted for some reason. My mom opened the door. "Where were you?" she asked me, looking around, frightened. "I was just coming to look for you. I was banging on the door. Didn't you hear me?" "I didn't hear anything." My mom brought me inside. "You're 45 minutes late." Those 45 minutes would remain a mystery to me until February of 2023. A series of strange dreams led me to seek help on the Experiencers subreddit, and I recalled this childhood incident of missing time. Using the MoveOn site, I found Lori McDonald, a hypnotherapist renowned for working with people who've had experiences like mine. She offered rather than doing regression, she'd open up my natural psychic abilities so I'd be able to remember on my own in time. But the memories were still patchy, and it wasn't until we did an inner child session completely unrelated to paranormal things that it all came crashing down. You're supposed to give your inner child a gift at the end of it to make you feel more rooted, grounded. I handed her one, and she gave one to me, a blue sphere that floated over her palm. The floodgates were open. I recovered the rest in regression sessions with an amazing friend of mine, Fiona Harris of Clear Path Healing, and this is what I remembered. Prior to the incident of the bus dropping me at a different location, perhaps days or even weeks before, I was by myself on the swing set singing. This wasn't unusual. I was being bullied by the other children. A transfer student, thick glasses, year younger than the rest. I see how those who learned bad behavior from their parents or had a need to make themselves feel more secure would latch onto that potential for bullying me. I escaped the swings when I could. But today, none of the children or the chaperones were nearby. So no one saw the people appear. Before me was a man, 6'2", pale, with elegant hands and a kind smile. His eyes were a startling blue I compared to my mother's favorite actor, Richard Harris, but they almost glowed. Child me had no fear of him, however. In fact, it was as if I'd always known him. I thought of him as a teacher, but that made no sense. He certainly wasn't from my school. All the Catholic school male teachers wore stuffy suits. His outfit was weird. A blue jumpsuit molded to his body. No seams, no buttons, no zippers, but gold lettering, like some kind of unreadable geometric symbols. One was an upside-down triangle, I remember that. He had a silver belt my childhood diaries claim, quote, did something. But I never elaborated what it was that it did. I couldn't look past his waist. Beyond his waist were what my brain told me were children, but I couldn't look at them. Something kept my eyes riveted to him. His face, his torso, but never below his waist. I knew there was something behind the school. That's silly. I gaslit myself. There's only fields and trees back there. There can't be anything there. He had beautiful blonde hair. I'd be jealous if he were a girl, I thought back then. He leaned down on his knees, non-threatening, to talk to me.
Your voice is beautiful,
he said, although I never remember his lips moving.
What's that you're singing?
In my mind, he sounded like he had a clipped modern RP British accent, like the kind of posh British you hear newscasters use. It's the Phantom of the Opera. I've had the libretto memorized since 3rd grade, but the book was different, did you know? I wish Christine had gone with Eric instead. Did I mention I was a precocious and annoyingly gifted child? He was amused at this.
I like Weber's musical, and yes, I did know that. I sing to myself when I'm lonely. Are you lonely? Why are you by yourself?
I started to explain to him the other children didn't like me, but it was like he snapped the images from my mind. 3 tables apart between myself and the whole rest of the school at lunch, even the 8th graders, being pushed down into the mud, them throwing my mother's favorite hat over my head where I couldn't reach it. He frowned.
That strikes me as very lonely and sad.
I couldn't disagree.
Do you want to be my friend?
He asked. I felt no sense of stranger danger, and child me was friends with all the adult members of the church choir, so I saw no reason to be scared. I nodded.
Do you want to go on adventures? Do you want to see the stars? You wanted to be an astronaut, didn't you?
I didn't ask how he knew that. It didn't even strike me as odd. I'd seen Story Musgrave speak at a science event in Maryland the year before. I nodded again. He held out a pale, slender hand to me.
Would you like to come with me?
I hesitated, not out of fear. My mom would be mad if I skipped school, I told him. I should stay in class.
That's okay. I'll come for you another day.
I don't remember him even leaving, but they all vanished. I saw a silver streak behind the school, and then had the overwhelming sense of fear and needing to be with the other children. I didn't recall the conversation at all. Not until this year. But I believe it's the moment I gave conscious permission for what happened after. And so, we returned to the day of stillness, from running from the thing behind me, but being too scared to turn, to look. I was frozen, like I couldn't move, and then I was in the air, high above the ground, like riding a roller coaster, but I didn't feel the inertia of gravity at all. I blacked out. When I woke up, I was on a padded table with a bright light in my face, like a doctor's office. A small child was near me, but no, it wasn't a child. It was gray, with a big, bald head, black, almond-shaped eyes, almost no nose or mouth. Something about that terrified me. I looked beside me, and a ways off saw a man in his 40s also lying on a table. Graying hair. He was naked, and I was immediately embarrassed. I looked away. Partitions blocked my view of most of the huge area around me, but I called it the mezzanine for some reason. I could look up and see layers of floors above me, half walls, and everywhere people were busy. Everyone had a function, and was doing something, like worker ants. It was cold metal all around me, aluminum-looking or steel. I don't recall windows, or perhaps they were closed. The air was heady with oxygen and abundance rather than thin. My head was swimmy. A tall being approached. For years, my mind blocked the memory of what he looked like because I was so scared, but he had a head like a praying mantis. Not bright green like the North American mantis we're used to. The coloration was darker. He was almost in silhouette because of the bright light on my face. He leaned close and said, "Be still." I heard his voice in my mind. Oh, he was cold and brusque and alien. He still is whenever I encounter him, like a doctor with the worst bedside manner. He held a metallic object next to my nose, and I felt a sharp pain high up and cried out. "Be silent," he told me. One of the smaller beings touched a mole behind my ear and nodded at the mantis being, which I call the mentor to this day. I don't know why. He nodded back. "Take her. We're done here." The beings pulled me and shuffled me off to another place of the room, where they dressed me haphazardly. I put on my own stockings because they were doing it wrong. I was missing my shoes, my backpack, and blazer, although they'd all be back with me when I returned later. They took me to the mouth of a hallway where a man waited for me. He was maybe in his 20s or 30s. Short, cropped black hair, high cheekbones, sharp jawline, a little stubble. Fair to medium-skinned, 6'2" or higher, an aquiline nose, and below, shapely, thin lips. Enough black eyeliner to accentuate the slight almond tilt to his arresting blue eyes. They glowed with a strange luminescence. I didn't recall the incident at the playground, didn't realize it was the same man. I say man, but I knew he wasn't human. There was nothing human about the way his eyes fixed onto me. I knew that he knew everything about me, every secret, every dream, every fear. It was like facing a predator in a way, but whatever deep-set fear I had at that inside vanished with a kind of mental prod from him. A weird calm seeped over me, like I didn't need to run. Why did he change his appearance since the first time I saw him? The only explanation I have now is that while 9-year-old me had no idea what kind of man I'd be attracted to when I was older, something about his choice of appearance definitely matched the things that I like as an adult. I couldn't have known that then. He cut an imposing figure in an all-black jumpsuit molded to his body in some kind of high-necked black cape or robe. Gold lettering was on his chest, and the symbol of an upside-down triangle, but I couldn't read it, whether it was his name or not.
"My name is Demetrius,"
he said.
"Come with me."
His slender, elegant hands wrapped around my arm and pulled me forward. Oh, he was annoyed, and I thought it was with me. But through hypnotherapy with Fiona, we've come to the conclusion he was annoyed at the mantis being behind us. They've never gotten along. I don't know why fully, except I got a download years later that implies it may have something to do with the various experiences I underwent over the years at the hands of the insectoid. Demetrius is some kind of gifted psychic teacher, and he doesn't like having to work for the mantis being. I don't know why he does. Maybe he has to. Maybe he's a prisoner or under a contract. Maybe I'll never know the answers fully, but I can hold out hope. Demetrius felt powerful. For anyone experienced with Reiki or other energy work, it felt like being tapped into a strong source whenever you're near him. The grip of his long-fingered hand was like a vice, but more than that, this man did not need physical strength to make me surrender. I opened my mouth to say something, but he silenced me with one look, a pressure on my mind, erasing all thoughts, but...
Be still and listen. Look.
He pointed behind me. There was an adjoining room, a lowered platform from the hallway, like a sunken living room in American architecture, separated by several steps. There was a huge bay window, but it was shuttered tight by metal. I couldn't see outside. In this room, 5 small, strange entities were sitting lotus-style around in a circle. They were almost identical to the other small gray beings, except they had no face. It was almost like they were a machine there to assist. I don't know why I had that feeling, but I do.
You're going to play a game,
Demetrius said. What game? I asked. I could answer him without opening my mouth, and that frightened me. I want to go home.
First, the game.
He pointed at the small beings. A blue sphere floated in the air between them. Their heads turned in eerie unison to silently follow its progress. As it hit the center of the circle, the ball would suddenly begin to unravel into thousands of small pieces like metal, like those metal kinetic toys from the old days when you press your hand into them and they maintain their shape. And then the ball would move closer to another being and reform into a ball once more. Back and forth. They did this over and over, somehow always knowing who to pass it to and where it was going. He tried to explain it to me, but he didn't use all words. It was like he tried to put whole blocks of information as a zip file inside my brain. Today I call that a download, and as I've learned with time, when I get one of those, it can take days for me to fully process whatever they were trying to tell me. Not just seconds, as they seem to be able to. But he didn't have days.
We don't have time for this,
he said. I shook my head almost painfully. Between the overload of information and also seeing it played out before me, I was overwhelmed. I don't get it.
But you've done it before.
I want to go home.
Guinevere,
he said exasperatedly. That's not my name. Stop calling me that. Although I would choose it as my confirmation name several years later. His voice was almost pleading. I started to get the impression his exasperation was not just because I wasn't getting the concept.
You don't even remember who you are. You don't know your own potential.
There was a gray being by his side, around 5'5". I don't know when she showed up, or if she'd been there the whole time. I knew she was a woman, though nothing about her physiology suggested it. She was a taller gray being than the others, big black eyes, almost no nose, and a thin mouth that never opened to speak. She reached out a slender, long hand with fewer fingers than I expected and touched his forearm. Axilia, she said to him. I got the impression that was his title or station or part of his name or something. He sighed with exasperation and backed up. The feeling I got from her was matronly, warm, kind. Here's how you do it. Somehow the way she explained it, I understood. The object of the game was to force the ball to keep its shape with your mind. And the ball would fight you. It wanted to be in tiny pieces of metal, not a sphere. You also had to navigate the feeling of the pass. One of the small beings would, I call it a knock, telepathically, almost to say, it's your turn, but with no words, just a feeling. Take it. And you'd have to take physical control from the other. Then they'd let go, and it was your job to control the wily thing, then pass it to someone else by giving them a little mental knock and waiting for them to take it before you fully let go. If you let go before they had it, it would fall and shatter into 1,000 pieces. It did several times, and the gray woman had to set it up again. It was getting easier to pass it back and forth, and I could feel the pride of Demetrius behind me. A far cry from the frustration and annoyance he'd had this whole time. I turned for approval and saw a wide-closed smirk on his face and his eyes lit with excitement as he watched the sphere. Something about that expression made my little prepubescent heart go ka-thump in my chest. The second my heart rate changed, his eyes immediately shifted from the game and locked onto mine. I got a flash of a thought or an emotion from him I can only describe as disbelief, and the thoughts flowing from him were,
That's not my function, you can't be serious.
This was directed at someone else, and
People,
or maybe
humans, don't look at me like that.
Then it was like a steel door closed, and I could no longer sense those thoughts. I was so worried he was mad or I'd done something wrong. In a slow, calculated tone, he asked,
"Do you find me attractive?"
The kinetic ball behind me fell into 1,000 pieces. I was so embarrassed to be asked that question, my emotions flowed over and I could no longer hold it together. He held up a hand even as the tall gray sighed and started to form the sphere back into shape with her mind. His tone was very matter-of-fact.
"Someday, I will be much more to you. But for now, I am just a friend."
I nodded. Here again is time and memory I have not recovered. In the next bit and piece, I was in a darker, softly lit room. I was standing before a black leather chair with a long arched glass, or something told me more than glass, maybe crystal, panel, like the letter C coming around the chair, like armrests. It looked like a very padded office chair, to be honest, not that exciting, but on the glass were golden raised symbols, like etching, or embossed, or maybe even floating slightly above. The symbols were geometric-like, but different. No language I recognized. He was in the middle of explaining and pointing to one very close to the front right-hand side.
"That one is an emergency stop, most important. You'll need that when you first learn to fly."
Can I fly? I asked. I already wore glasses and had since 3rd grade. Terrible astigmatism. Oh no, I can't be an astronaut. My eyesight's terrible. He just laughed and laughed. He bent over, propping himself on the chair for strength, and in my mind it was cascades of laughter. I don't know why it was so funny. He recovered and stood.
"Don't worry about that. Anyway,
The mantis being stepped in from the hallway. If I thought my entity had been annoyed, the mentor was practically furious. "We don't have time for this." Whatever this being was, and I was very afraid of it for some reason, I knew it was my being's boss.
"I'm teaching her like you told me."
He sounded annoyed again. "She's been gone too long. We have to put her back." Unceremoniously, the mantis being came forward with a syringe of yellow liquid. I began to cow immediately at the sight, but Demetrius shushed me and came down to my level, turned my head with his fingers, and made me look into his eyes. Warmth, comfort, safety.
"It's all right. Be as right as rain, yeah?"
I nodded once. The syringe entered my neck, and I began to fade from consciousness. The rest, as you know, is history. I was put back, running to my house, terrified, and 45 minutes had gone. My mother brought me inside, and we went about our night as if nothing was wrong, which itself is very strange and not at all how my mother would normally act if she saw me crying or upset. But as is the way with these things, there was clear manipulation of events surrounding the incident to facilitate it happening, and then to try and bury it, or at least to try and make me think nothing much of it. It's taken me 25 years to come to terms, and I suspect it'll take me even longer to understand why. I never stopped taking new friends to my old neighborhood and telling them about my incident of missing time. I suspect that is what made it so I would never fully forget. Thank you for listening. I'd like to take this opportunity to tell my fellow experiencers that you're not alone. I encourage you to reach out, whether on the subreddit r/experiencers or to others that you know. I'm working on an album written about my own experiences and for people like us. It's going to be about the yearning for more, what it's like to be human, and relationships, human or otherwise. And of course, even if you don't believe in any of this, and it's just entertainment value for you, you can still just listen to the music. What you're going to be hearing now is actually a clip from one of my demo tracks that's called Prologue to Memory. And it's about that moment where you realize that you're an experiencer. Disclosure cannot happen unless we band together and start telling our stories. There's so many of us out there, we only need to talk about it, and then maybe they'll listen. End the stigma, and never stop looking up. I'm Persephone Mae Holloway, and you're listening to Strange Encounters.
Hundreds of UFOs by Jolly Ad 626. Me and my fiance witnessed this event. It all happened in about 1 or 2 minutes tops. It was the most terrifying event of my life, and we continued to have strange things happen. Last night, something happened too, and I will detail everything in the order it has happened. August 2022. I don't recall exactly the date, but it was the night before they announced on the news that 106 UFOs were spotted over Kiev, Ukraine. We were on the back porch dancing, smoking, and chilling. He points up and goes, "What the expletive is that?" I look up and there's a massive cross-shaped light in the sky. We can't tell if it's actually either a sphere or a circle, and the T-shape is just the lights. It is close. It is close enough to definitely see us, and I was frozen with fear. Terrified, I was about to get abducted. 5 seconds later, he pointed in the other direction, to the left. There are maybe 3 to 5 rows of hundreds of lights with no tails streaming into the atmosphere. It almost looked like they came through a portal, but I realize now it was them entering the atmosphere. At a certain point, they all split into every direction imaginable. For half a second, my brain was so confused as to what was going on. I thought all of the stars were moving. I heard the neighbors way down the road screaming at the top of their lungs, and then 3 cars raced down the road. They probably saw it too. We live on a 20-acre plot in 5 Points, Alabama. We have like 3 neighbors, all a pretty good ways from us. There's nothing here, only a Dollar General. We were absolutely shocked, terrified, and horrified. We knew it was the end of the world and Earth was being invaded. We stayed up all night waiting for the news on TV. We contacted friends and family. This is seriously the most terrified I've ever been in my life. 6 hours later, the news of 106 UFOs over Ukraine comes out. A week later, we have lights turning on and off and water turning on by itself. We are finding our cats in our locked car in the morning. I wasn't going to make a post detailing what I saw, but last night when my fiance was in the living room, the TV turned on by itself. 15 minutes later, the porch light turned on. Overnight, the hall bathroom light. We both had a dream where we saw a dark green, not so skinny, short alien peering into our window. I also had a dream one came and appeared on a pier near a lake, and I ran away screaming. Later, I had the dream about the alien in the window. I saw the alien in the window. I said, "There's a not so skinny alien watching us on the window." Then I had this flashback type thing in my dream where I was on a pier at a lake. There were pine trees. It was windy and dark and rainy. There was a giant ship on the water, and the alien appeared before me. I screamed as loud as I could and ran away. I woke up after that. When my fiance woke up, what shook me specifically was that he said, "a not so skinny alien." I am scared. I am supposed to be clocking into work, but I'm hiding in the bathroom typing this because we are both terrified. I'm shaking. I had a panic attack over the UFO stuff over Alaska too. I think they legit definitely know that we know something, and I'm dead serious, don't know what to do or where to go or how to handle this. What is going on here? I used to think people with UFO experiences were the most insane kind of people until we saw what we saw. I will also add that me and my fiance are completely normal people. We both have full-time jobs, cats, toads, gardens. Nothing abnormal was going on until we saw the UFOs. And if it helps, I did report the experience to MUFON. I'm having extreme anxiety over this situation. I read a report about a man who experienced the same type of high strangeness after his UFO sighting. He was having dreams of them, weird light problems, weird paranormal type things going on. Apparently, he was actually visited, like they knocked on his door. Never in a million years did I think I'd believe a story like this, but there's not a doubt in my mind that guy was telling the truth. I keep thinking of things relevant to add. This happened right around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It was not pitch black. It was right before the sunset. No meteors, no tails, not a single tail. That's why I was confused for like 5 seconds, wondering why the stars were moving. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. It was just all the ships zooming through the sky everywhere. You couldn't tell what was what. That specific part was over in 20 seconds tops. It's not much, but I saw a UFO today by Snappy Bee. I was out at my aunt's property with her and my nan. We had been there since sunset and were watching the stars. This place is like 4 hours from our nearest major city, so light pollution is low, though the moon was pretty bright tonight. I had been taking long exposure photos of the stars on my phone. Got a few good ones too. I sit back down with them and we're all looking at the stars. My aunt has been pointing out all the satellites you can see. They look like stars both in brightness and the distance away your eyes can discern, but just move in a predictable trajectory. Suddenly, she points out this really bright satellite that, weirdly enough, seems much closer. You know how you just tell how far away something is? Well, yeah, this one was self-evidently much closer than you would expect a satellite to be. You can't know for sure, but I reckon within a couple of 100 meters max. It too is also moving in a direction, so it mustn't be a star. But the longer I look at this thing, the more I notice about it that makes me think it's not a satellite. It's wobbling. It's not steady in the way it's moving. It's kind of bobbing back and forth, side to side, as it moves in this set direction. Immediately, I know what it is. I've only been thinking about aliens seriously the past couple of months, but yeah, I already reckoned they were here doing their own thing, as they do. I point out its weird movements to both them, and they agree it's very weird, unlike anything they've seen and can't be a satellite. I then pull out I think it's a UFO, but I don't think they gave it a second thought. They were more distracted by this strange bobbing moving light in the sky. So I'm a bit more persistent in that I think it's a UFO, and eventually I get my auntie interested enough to have a conversation about that absurd idea that I genuinely believe it to be an extraterrestrial vehicle. Turns out she doesn't think it's that absurd and likes the way I think about it. She says she believes that Roswell was a legitimate alien crash, and that gives me enough confidence to pull up that Bob Lazar clip on this subreddit that explains how the craft fly and why at low speeds they look goofy. They bob back and forth because they are continually pulling themselves with their gravity generators or whatever. And yeah, this thing was moving at a pretty slow speed. We were watching it for about a minute and a minute and a half, and it's behaving exactly as predicted. In the end, I didn't get a definitive, yeah, I agree, but it seemed to be they weren't able to internalize any better explanation for this uniquely intense light with unexplainable movement and proximity, and at least liked the idea that it was extraterrestrial. But also, to see it with your own two eyes, exactly matching the explanation Bob gave as to how they fly, is absolutely fascinating. Nice to know that I'm not crazy for this left field belief, and it gives a ton more credibility to Bob Lazar for me now. Also, that I was in close enough proximity to an extraterrestrial, or at least extraterrestrial tech, to recognize it. So cool. I just wish they'd come back to me and give me a tour or something. That time I saw a UFO by Aspiring Occultist 4. This story is based on true, real-life events that took place in the urban city of St. Louis, Missouri during the late summer, early autumn of 2015. The day began as ordinary as any other. I rose out of bed around 11 a.m. and almost immediately pulled a cigarette out of my pack and headed toward the back porch. As I take a seat on the large wooden staircase, I hear the slam of the back door and am greeted by my roommate at the time. We'll call him Jay. Jay and I light up our cigarettes and begin to make small talk, admiring the beautiful 75-degree day. The sky was a bright, vibrant blue and home to not a single cloud. Myself and Jay, 110% stone cold sober, had no idea of the once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon that was about to unfold for our young, eager eyes to witness. As I arose from my seat to head inside, we were taken aback by a sound so unusual it caused us to pause and ponder this extraordinarily unique melody of ringing. This noise was truly indescribable, although my best attempt to put it into words would be to say it was a low-pitched buzzing sound, like a mix between a very loud airplane and a low hovering helicopter blades. To this day, I've never heard a sound even remotely similar, and probably never will again. I glanced over at Jay, looking completely starstruck, with big wide eyes glued to the sky in pure shock and awe. What I saw next was easily one of the most mesmerizing and truly mind-blowing sights I've gotten the pleasure of witnessing during my short time on this earth. I gazed up into the sky and was absolutely blown away by this very large oval-shaped object hovering across the stratosphere. This large mass covered easily 25% of the visible sky, if not more. It was certainly larger than any man-made aircraft I had ever seen. This mysteriously ginormous football-shaped hovercraft was gray in color, had a circular-shaped window-like contraption toward the upper middle, as well as yellow and green blinking lights on both the top and bottom ends. This UFO almost resembled a rocket ship, like the ones they launch at NASA, although I was 100% certain this was not the case, and that what I was seeing was in fact quite literally out of this world. By the time it had floated completely across the sky and out of our sight, Jay and I were left speechless and absolutely dumbfounded, clearly having no idea how to process what it was exactly we had just seen. Looking back on this day, I regret not pulling out my phone and capturing proof of all this. I suppose adrenaline and shock had my brain in a not-so-logical place. Explaining the unexplainable is not always the easiest task, but I hope you enjoyed hearing my story as much as I enjoyed telling it. Thank you. In this next segment, we're looking at some of the most classic and well-known cases of encounters with the strange, including sightings of unidentified flying objects, alien abductions, ghost stories, cryptid encounters, and other unexplained phenomena. So sit back and prepare to be taken on a journey through some of the most captivating and mysterious stories of the strange and unknown. In this episode, we take a look at Woodrow Derenberger and the Legend of Indrid Cold. Things always seem mysterious on chilly fall nights in the country. For Woodrow Derenberger, his mysterious encounter with an almost human, grinning man on the back roads of West Virginia one November night would affect him and his family for almost a quarter of a century. In 1966, Woodrow Derenberger was a sewing machine salesman living in Mineral Wells, West Virginia. One November night that year, Derenberger said he was returning from a business trip to Marietta, Ohio, when he had to stop to adjust a sewing machine in the back of his truck. Once he got back on the road, he noticed lights ahead of him. Thinking the lights were police officers, he stopped, only to discover that the lights didn't belong to a car, but to what he said was an aircraft that looked like a kerosene lamp chimney. Derenberger said a man stepped out and approached his truck. He looked perfectly natural and normal as any human being, Derenberger told Ronald Maines during an interview on WTAP TV in Parkersburg, West Virginia, the day after the encounter. His face looked like he had a good tan, a deep suntan. He was not too dark, but it was just like he had been out in the sun a lot and had a good tan. His hair was combed straight back, and it was dark brown, and he seemed to have a good thick head of hair. His eyebrows, his face, his features were very normal. I don't believe that he looked any different from any other man that you would meet on the street. But he wasn't normal, Derenberger said. He had a large grin and kept his arms folded with his hands up under his armpits. And though he spoke to Derenberger, his smile never moved. He spoke, Derenberger said, telepathically. He asked me to roll down the window on my right-hand side of my truck, and I'd done what he asked, Derenberger said during the interview. And this man stood there, and he first asked me what I was called, and I know he meant my name, and I told him my name, and he asked me, he said, "Why are you frightened?" He said, "Don't be frightened. We wish you no harm." He said, "We mean you no harm. We wish you only happiness." And I told him my name, and when I told him my name, he said he was called Cold. It was Derenberger's and the world's introduction to the entity known as Indrid Cold. Naturally, Derenberger reported his encounter to the Parkersburg police. By the next day, the media frenzy surrounding the story took off. Derenberger agreed to be interviewed on live television on WTAP. Taking part in the interview were members of the state police, representatives of the Wood County Airport and Parkersburg Police, and a representative from the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. For 30 minutes, the men peppered Derenberger with questions about the strange encounter. After the interview aired, however, others came forward with claims that they also had seen a figure matching Derenberger's description of Indrid Cold. One man reported that a man matching Indrid Cold's description tried to flag him down, but he was too afraid to stop. Other people claimed to see lights and fluttering vehicles on the road Derenberger said he talked to Cold on, and several witnesses reported they had seen Derenberger stopped on the road talking to a man on the same road. For the next 3 weeks, newspapers in the area ran stories about Derenberger's claims and the claims of others. News coverage eventually died down, but Cole's visitations continued. Derenberger reported he was visited often by the strange grinning man over the course of the next month. Eventually, Derenberger's family said they too had seen Cold and other strange things. Naturally, the media attention given to the story brought locals to Derenberger's house, hoping to catch a glimpse of Cold. The attention, as well as the scorn and ridicule he was suffering from, led Derenberger to seek medical attention. His physician gave him a clean bill of health and found no evidence of chemical imbalance or disruption. Although he wrote a book about his visits, nothing good came from Derenberger's recounting his encounter. In fact, it didn't just negatively affect him, but it affected his family and his friends as well. His family received years of harassing phone calls and blamed lost jobs and friends on Derenberger's tales of Indrid Cold. Derenberger suffered from painful headaches and depression, and eventually his wife divorced him. Derenberger moved away from the area to escape his notoriety. After years of living somewhere else, however, Derenberger moved back to the Mineral Wells area before his death in 1990 at the age of 74, 23 years after Indrid Cold supposedly pulled him over on the highway. While he never recanted his statement, he never spoke of them again either. Since then, Derenberger's account has lingered, propelling Indrid Cold into the realm of the rural myths and legends, as well as into tales of the creepy and unknown. After Derenberger spoke to John Keel, the author of the Mothman Prophecies, the Legend of Indrid Cold was linked to Mothman, even so far as appearing in the 2002 Mothman Prophecies movies. "It's difficult to tell if it really happened," said Brian Dunning, author of Skeptoid magazine, but it's clear that Derenberger gained nothing from coming forward. Who knows what actually happened to Derenberger on that strange night, Dunning said. Derenberger's story did little for him. His obsession with it cost him his job and his wife, and according to Keel, who visited him a year later, they found him hiding behind drawn curtains from what he believed were hundreds of UFO believers and skeptics saying that Indrid Cold and his friends frequently visited the farm, often arriving by automobile for long, friendly chats. He had almost certainly become delusional. Cold November nights on lonely rural roads will always be a good setting for mysterious encounters, Dunning said. Rural areas are always the best place for a creepy tale, he said. It's dark, there are trees and murky creeks, and you are far from the comforting protection of lights and people. Thanks for watching another episode of Strange Encounters. I'd like to thank our special guest host, Persephone Mae Holloway, for joining us and sharing her story and her music. Links to her Instagram, Spotify, and Linktree can be found in the video description below. Send your own experiences with the unknown to our email at verystrangeencounters@gmail.com. You can also submit your stories to the website linked below. You can join us on Reddit at r/verystrangeencounters. If you would like to support us, there are links to our Patreon, buymeacoffee.com, and PayPal donate below. Thank you again for tuning in to Strange Encounters. Remember, in a universe teeming with mysteries, our strangest encounter may just be the beginning of an extraordinary journey into the unknown.